Good morning. So today I'm going to share with you about um, what happened after my father died. And I was 12 years old, living in Orange County, and how life showed up after that. This is a part of my life that has really helped so many clients, so many people that I've had direct experience with this. So, of course, there's still a tender heart around this time of my life, and yet because of this, it's helped so many people. And what happened after that time is trying to find myself, trying to find out who I was going to be in the world, because there's that critical time when you're 12 years old. If you've got a father that's there, that's loving, that's emotionally available, that's a good role model, all those things, which from what I understand is pretty rare. But if you had one of those, you would learn how to protect yourself. You would learn about sex. You would learn about how to pick up chicks. You would learn about all these things that every 12-year-old boy, should learn about. But if you don't, like I did, and I just, my mom did the best to bring in a male influence that would help us with that. But there were a couple false starts. And remember, one was like very much in his effeminate, and I didn't really learn much from that. And then there was this jarhead that was really an asshole, and you remember him grabbing my brother and I by our hair and yelling at us and telling us to be better sons or something. And God, that was not a good role model for sure. So there was the opposite ends of the scale. So I guess I kind of went, well, I guess I just don't need that right now. So I just went off on my own, and I had some older friends that could get beer and cigarettes, and so we used to hang out with them. And my friend and I, my twin brother, used to ride our bicycles about 18 miles to the beach, from Garden Grove to Huntington Beach, Newport Beach. Just spend the whole day out there, hanging out, eating candy, smoking cigarettes, jumping in the water, being out there, just getting fried, and then riding our bikes all the way back. So that was just kind of what we spent our time with. And, we would go to the store and, shoplift until we got caught, and peed my pants. But those are all just, I was just doing the best that I could. And, we'd still, my friend Steve would steal his motorcycle out of his garage without his dad knowing sometimes. And we ride out on the streets and we just go ride this motorcycle and we take turns. And, we're all just trying to move to the next year, move to the next age in our life. And I feel like if I look back on that, that's kind of what I was doing. I was having fun, but I was also having fun with not a lot of direction. My mom was doing the best she could, but she also had to work and take care of us three kids, and, drive us to all the things you got to drive your kids to. So I think that was a time of really getting by. And then my mom met Hank, and Hank was a guy that was like probably right in the middle of those two other men that I talked about, and very solid and unpretentious, and not full of himself, and very, very much wanting to support and love my mom and us kids. And so I think it was that he was getting a transfer to San Diego. So we moved from Garden Grove to San Diego. And that was when I was coming out of 10th grade. So I was going to go into 11th and 12th grade in my next high school, which was Point Loma High School. And that was a big move because, we had been in Orange County really, all our lives, and we're going to move down to San Diego. But if you know anything about San Diego is a beautiful, beautiful town with lots of stuff going on. And it's got surf and sand and activities and sports, and it's just a fantastic, huge city. So we went down there and we lived in Point Loma. We lived in this apartment complex above the pool. And of course, I connected with the kids in the apartment complex who are a little bit older than me and had access to things that I didn't have access to. And we just, we got into trouble and just did the things that, kids normally do, drinking beer and smoking cigarettes and sneaking into the drive-in. We used to have drive-in movie theaters back then. You used to be able to sneak under the fence and just sit right in front of the movie. that was that was so much fun. My first, actually, my first job was newspaper. So I had a bicycle, and I loaded up with these big old Sunday papers, and used to. Luckily, a lot of the papers were delivered in the apartment complex, but then I would go out to, outside the complex. And then the next real job I had was at SeaWorld. I was a dolphin trainer. I'm just kidding. I helped make sandwiches in one of the the little snack shacks or restaurants. And my brother Ken also worked. I think he worked in the Mexican food place. So we both worked in the food. I think we were like 15 and a half years old. Got our hair cut really short, which was totally different than Orange County. Orange County was long hair and pot, and San Diego was short hair and cocaine. So you have to make an adjustment. So I came in there with long hair, and I looked around me, and there was a bunch of, short, short cropped haircuts, and I just didn't fit in. In fact, I looked more like a sissy girl probably. So I got my hair cut shorter and started to fit in a little bit. But of course, I never really fit in. I was always kind of on the outside. But I did. My brother and I did go out for the volleyball team, and I had no experience with volleyball, but I was really excited about it. It looked really fun, especially getting up there and jumping up over the net and smashing the ball down on the court and digging balls and all that stuff. Of course, all that stuff I couldn't do, but I was really fast. I was really good defensively. Every once in a while, I'd creep up over the net and get everything just perfect and get a spike. But I was decent. But there were some players that were much better than I was, and my brother was one of them. So he made the team, and I didn't. I was kind of an alternate, so I got to play sometimes. But that was kind of you. We got into like a little bit of a group there, that you found some tribe there, and in that tribe was more partying, more going to the beach, playing beach volleyball, joining tournaments, playing two-man volleyball, three, four, five, six-man volleyball. Anytime there was a volleyball net around the area, we were there. So I got to spend a lot of time at the beach, and that was good to occupy me and keep me in school and all that. So I did decent in school. Had a couple girlfriends, nothing too serious, but lots of great girlfriends. Let's see. Let's see. Graduating high school. Did I miss anything? Oh, I got pulled over one time. I was coming back from a party. My friend had just um, gotten busted and gotten into a lot of trouble. We were drinking kamikazes from the pitcher, and he decided to drive home and ended up trying to make a corner and didn't let go of the steering wheel. Ended up breaking the steering wheel with his nose. Of course, we all heard that story. We all laughed and never got the message. So we all continued on. And I remember I got busted for a cop pulled me over. I had an open bottle and I just opened it up in the car. You're just tipsy enough that you feel like you want another drink right now. I was 17 years old, and he pulled me over, noticed the beer bottle there, so I spent the day in jail, and I got a DUI. And I remember back then I think it was like $600 to deal with that, and now it's like $3, $4, $5,000 to deal with something like that. So I did learn my lesson then. That was a good lesson. After that, there was a lot of anguish and angst in me, and I was trying to find myself, and didn't know what direction to go. And I was it seemed like everything was just big drama, and I was worried about going to jail because of some of the things I was doing. And I remember just there was holes in our walls in the apartment that we used to live in because people used to get pissed off and punch the hole in the wall. And my friend used to do it, so we would do it. And I remember slamming down on this piece of furniture in my bedroom, and I was so angry. And it was me just begging for, just longing for love and longing for attention. I don't know what else was in there, but I was definitely not directed. So when my when Hank, my stepfather, got new orders, excuse me, got new orders to go to Rhode Island, I was like, I can't stay here. This is just going to destroy me. So I decided to um, pack up the 14-foot U-Haul trailer with all of our stuff, Ethan Allen furniture, which, if you know, is really big furniture. So we packed up the truck. We couldn't fit another tennis ball in there. And we both drove from San Diego to Rhode Island across country together for the first time. This is us getting to know each other. And I loved driving, the night shift, like the late at night to early in the morning. I just loved driving as the sun was coming up. And I loved the silence and peace that was there on the road and in the cab of the truck. And we stopped in a couple places to visit relatives of his, and we finally got to Rhode Island, and he got to his destination. Um, and I decided to go to community college and see if I could kind of make something of myself and find some direction. And I took a couple classes, and Hank let me borrow his car, and I would drive from Rhode Island. I think you had to drive through Rhode Island through Massachusetts, back through Rhode Island somehow. But I went to CCRI, Community College of Rhode Island, for a little bit, like 3 months. And I was doing it sort of, but I wasn't making any friends and wasn't really motivated. And I had another decision. I said, maybe I should join the military. Maybe if I could join the Coast Guard, that would be really cool. That was my dream come true. So we went to the recruiter office where they had Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard. It was like shopping. It was like a recruiting shopping mall. And so I went to the Coast Guard, and their quota was full. They didn't need anybody else. And I was like, oh man, okay, what's my second choice? Air Force. Okay, so Air Force sounded pretty cool. Sounded like they had a lot of great training. In fact, I knew that the Air Force and Saudi Arabia all sent some of their students to Navy schools because the Navy had really good schools. And Hank was in the Navy, so I thought about that. He told me about the Navy. He didn't polish it or anything. He just said, "This is what it is." But they have really good training, and it was really great. He didn't push me. I don't know what's coming over him right now, and just feeling a lot of appreciation for how he showed up in my life. It's kind of hit me right now as I talk about it. But he didn't influence me at all. You would think that he would try and say, "What you need to do is you need to join the Navy because all the other ones suck." But he didn't do that. He really just let me make my own decision and let me go to the Coast Guard. He let me go to the Air Force. And the Air Force guy was never there, so I couldn't really connect with them. Their quota must have been full too. Or maybe they saw me coming. But at the same time, like, I remember the Army and Marine recruiter going, "Come on over here, we'll take you, no problem." And I was like, "No thanks, look for something else." Which I'm sure would have been a fine decision too. I just had certain uh, expectations of what it would be like if I would have joined the Army and Marines. And I had really, I think, really, I had sort of an affinity for being on ships and being on the water and that kind of thing. I had already been to Europe and Africa and different places, so I wasn't really joining the military or the Navy to see different ports. I really was going in for the training, and I had it in my mind that the Navy had the best training. So I signed up, and they didn't tell me about the 3-year or 2-year plan like my brother got. They told me about the 6-year plan. And how they sold it to me was, "You are really smart." They said, you're really smart. You should be in the advanced technical program or the advanced nuclear program. And nuclear, I didn't feel like getting into that, but they said, you know, you could get up and rank. In fact, as soon as you get out of boot camp, you do a little thing, and then you're going to be a third class petty officer, which is a E4 right away. And that sounded really good until I realized that, you know, when you're a young buck and you're in the barracks and they need someone to gather up the guys and make them do, you know, sweeping and stuff like that, you're going to be the guy. And I was little, you know, 100 and something pound nothing, you know, just not a lot of like strong masculine energy in me. And I'm like, I'm the guy in charge. So that was hard, you know, realizing that you're the one that's going to get guys to do stuff. But that passed, and I got through that. And the other thing that I got out of that was at more schools. So what happened after boot camp, I went through basic electronics, which is super scary because the word is, if you can't pass basic electricity and electronics, called B-E-E, if you can't pass that, you're going to be chip and paint. You know, that's sort of a motivation there. And it's 13 weeks. And I think it was 13 weeks. God, that was a long time ago. I got through it. And then, you know, that last test where you got to do this lab exam, you got to troubleshoot this circuit board. And, you know, I'm like barely understanding this theory of electronics and capacitors and all this stuff. And I somehow passed. Whew, I got through that one. And then it was time for, I think it was called B school. And B school was specific to my rate. And that was the thing that was the duty of the job that I wanted to perform. So I was an ICman, or an interior communications electrician. And that's something that works on anything electromechanical. So servos and synchros and gyros and alarms and indicators and meters and steering gear and desalination equipment that takes the salt out of water, all kinds of stuff. So they taught me about all the equipment, or most of the equipment that I'd be working on. And then I went to a C school, which taught me about closed circuit television, how to troubleshoot that. And I was just busting my butt, you know, studying, and that's all I was doing, except for drinking beer. But man, I just remember being so overcooked. And I made it through black and white TV, but then they said, now we're going to go to color TV, which is a lot more complicated. And I said, you know what? Check me out. I'm going to pass. And so you were allowed to do that. So, but what they did was instead of 6 years, they took off something relative to the time that you spent in the class to the time that you had left, separate or subtracted from your 6 years. Anyway, I was in for 5 years and 3 months in the end. So I ended that, and I asked a recruiter. He said, where do you want to go? Or not recruiter, detailer, I think it's called. I said, well, I'm from California, so I'll take anything on the West Coast, carrier, minesweeper, anything. And so I got my orders, and the order said USS Nitro, New Jersey, Earl, New Jersey. So it was an old ammunition ship that was built in the 50s, and it was on a pier 3 miles long, second longest pier in the world. And I kind of just laughed to myself, you know, I'll take anything West Coast, and they send me to New Jersey on an ammunition ship. So I got to the ship, and I think it was the first or second day, they had me climbing the mast, because on the top of the mast was a wind detection system, so you could tell how fast the wind was going from what direction. And my rate, my shop was in charge of that. So it's kind of like initiation. You know, we had the thing at the bottom, very bottom of the ship, to detect how fast the ship was going, and the thing at the very top of the ship to see how fast the wind was going. And we maintained those things. So you climb up there with, all of your gear and your equipment, tools and all that. And then you got to kind of get on your tippy toes and undo the bolts of this thing and then lift it off without dropping the thing, 100 foot below on the deck. And you sit up there and you do your maintenance on it, you grease it up and clean it up and all that, and then you put it back together. So that was kind of my first thing on getting to the ship. So after that, we got orders that there was some that, so this is back in the 80s. I think this is like 1983, something like that. And we got the word that, this is when Lebanon was happening and Beirut and all that was happening. The Marines, they had their barracks bombed and all that was at that time. So we got orders that we're going to go on 6-month deployment to the Mediterranean. So that's a whole nother story and continued Navy life. And I ended up leaving that ship and going back to the West Coast and getting to another ship. But that's all part of the next story. So I've got some stories, some really good ones about being in the Med and being in Italy and Sicily and Israel and Greece and Turkey and Barbados. It's got some good stories there. So tune in next time. See you next time. Have a great day.